that the Ghana Tourism Authority has given the green light to operators in the hospitality sector to open up their businesses for operations. The authority, however, directs that strict adherence to social distancing protocols, among other containment measures announced by government, must be adhered to. Now, this means, with the exception of nightclubs, others such as hotels, drinking bars, restaurants, and any other eatery could operate. Now, this was contained in a statement and issued by the Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority, Mr. Akwesi Agyemang. Now, according to Mr. Agyemang, the directive is in tandem with the President's 9th address on COVID-19 on Sunday, May 10. And here on Newsdesk, we are asking, who is ensuring strict adherence to the protocols that must be adhered to at all these facilities, and how safe are patrons of the sector as the COVID-19 pandemic persists and the cases keep soaring? Mr. Agyemang joins us via Zoom for more on this. Thank you very much, sir, for your time here on Newsdesk. Now, you say that this is in tandem with the President's directive on Sunday. I have been going through the speech and I don't quite recall exactly the President's directing for hospitality industry to be open. We know that restaurants have been operating, but how exactly, sir?
Okay, all right, I think, thank you. I believe when we refer to the President's speech, we're referring to EI 64, which is in force. And if you read EI 64 quite clearly, it's very clear which of the sectors can operate and which have to be on lockdown, if I should put it that way. And since the President address, we received a lot of calls, people wanting to find out whether they could operate, whether there are new directives. I believe when we had EI 65 during the lockdown, it was very clear that, for example, drinking bars were to shut down and all that. And so since we reverted to EI 64, I think there was some confusion, and this statement that we issued seeks to clarify that. We've sent the detailed ones to the operators, but in clear terms, if you look at EI 64, there were exempted categories, and the ones that have been asked to operate are within that exempted categories. We also realized that subsequent to that, there are new guidelines on, for example, no mask, no entry in some establishments. And it was very important that we come out with this to us, it will concretize everything that is happening in the sector.
We know that for restaurants, for instance, throughout the period, they have been given the green light to go ahead and work to prepare food for the general public, except that you cannot sit and eat at their the spaces provided. Is this allowed now per EI 65?
No. EI 65 was for the lockdown. It was during the lockdown period that we said you cannot entertain sitting guests. So you could only do takeaway and pickups. For EI 64, you could go ahead. But what we've added on is that you have to keep the social distancing. So yes, you can admit guests to come in, but you must ensure that the social distancing protocols are adhered to. One, you must ensure that your staff are wearing the necessary PPEs to prevent the spread of the disease if any of them are infected. So those are the things that we sought to clarify. So currently EI 65 has expired. EI 64 is in place, and that really allows for them to operate.
Let's talk about the enforcement of the protocols as outlined in the President's speech, but also in the statement that you issued. How are you going to ensure enforcement that indeed people are wearing their masks, people are washing their hands, and observing all the other protocols as expected?
No, we are part of the National COVID Task Force. That includes the Ghana Health Service, the military, the Ghana Police Service, NADMO, the ambulance, NCA, and other agencies, FD and the rest. And so these directives, as issued to the public and also to the operators, have also been sent to the operational team. And so the police are very clear in their minds what they would expect if they, for example, get to a drinking bar. We also have inspectors who do the inspections for licensing and regulating these enterprises are also in town monitoring the situation. And we've also asked that the general public assist. So if you see any suspicious behavior and people are not adhering to these protocols, you can call into the national call center and then make some complaint, and then we'll follow up through that chain. Police, military, health service, and everybody that needs to know. So that's really what we're trying to do.
The issue of safety is also one that people are concerned about, especially for the hotels. COVID-19 has not left us. In fact, we see an increase in the case count. How advisable is it for hotels to operate within this period?
You know, we had hotels who were operating. Some hotels have long-term guests. So, for example, during even the lockdown, hotels were allowed to entertain their guests because there are some expatriates who are working in Ghana who are staying in hotels. And so you couldn't have asked them to leave the hotel. And so that has been a directive. And we also issued the protocols. So all the hoteliers are aware that you have to have, for example, in the public areas, hand washing, equipment, hand sanitizers, your front desk staff have to wear the mask and all that. So those protocols are there. And so far with the monitoring that we've done, we've seen that they are adhering to it.
So you're asking them to go back. I'm sure some of them will be listening to you this morning and say, yes, we'd love to go back, but we've been adversely affected by the lockdown. Business is not so good, and it will be difficult resuming business immediately. What is the help available to such businesses, and how can they return or resume operations immediately if there's any support?
We've been engaging the hotels. They are aware. Last week we had a meeting with the SSLFC, the president, the Hotels Association was there, the Tourism Federation were there. There are several interventions that are ongoing. One of them is the NBSSI package, 600 million. And we've engaged with NBSSI, with the Tourism Federation and all the associations. Then also, we know of the 3 billion facility that is being arranged through the Bank of Ghana by the Ministry of Finance, and we are working very closely with the ministry, our ministry, and the Ministry of Finance on that as well. We also know of other smaller facilities and grants, for example, under the World Bank project that we are working. There's a grant component that is also looking at the sector. So these are some of the measures that we think will come to help alleviate or contain the pressures on business. By and large, we're also very hopeful that with some of the measures that we put in place, for example, the smaller operators like chop bars and restaurants will at least get some business to keep them going as we deal with the bigger fishes and the bigger challenges that confront us. And so it's still work in progress, but at least we have put certain things in place.
Yes, we are aware of all these measures that you have just reiterated, but the question for many is how soon can we access these funds? How soon can it hit our accounts, and how soon can it be made available so we can start operations immediately? You are in contact with the ministry, with NBSSI. What is the indication you are getting from them?
I think NBSSI have indicated to us that the process of application, everything will be 2 weeks, and then they hope that they can start disbursements in May. We are monitoring the situation. And
we are in May. We are in May. Today is the 13th of May.
Yeah, so 2 weeks, we still have some 2 weeks to go, and I think things will come on stream.
Mr. Ajuma, we're wrapping up on this quickly. Some caution for the people within your industry and some tips on how they can revamp the operations in their businesses actually quickly.
I mean, I think we've taken a very serious view of what is happening. We know that our industry has been hit badly. We thank the operators for their cooperation so far in terms of adhering to the protocols that have been put in place. We've engaged them. Everybody is aware where we are going. For example, there's an interministerial committee in place with our ministry, the Ministry of Aviation, Interior, and Ministry of Finance, and the Ministry of Business Development, looking at some of these issues. And I know that at the end of the day, we will all come together, work together, and find ways that we can bring the industry back on its feet. So we thank them for their cooperation so far, and we want them to keep hope alive.
Thank you very much. Kwesi Agyemang is the Chief Executive of the Ghana Tourism Authority. He joined us after issuing a statement directing all people in the hospitality industry to resume business, because this is in line with the provisions made by the President and also in accordance with law. But of course, he made mention that there's some support for businesses within that space to help them resume operations.